What's up, guys? Casey and George back with the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. As always, when we start the show, got to thank those sponsors, George, TSR Racing Products, Driven Racing Oil. You can use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off your order. Champs Performance Parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas, and BRG 3D Printed Parts. George, what's happening? Is the weather nice?
The weather is not bad as I turn on my noise canceller here real quick, but the weather's not too bad. It's feeling pretty good out here. Me and the wife have spent a couple of evenings on the patio already, so that's saying a lot for Texas. If you're out and about anytime during the day, it's generally pretty hot. Well, you can turn the ceiling fan on. It feels pretty good out there. So I can't complain about the weather. Looking like we're making, or at least coming close to making that turn out of the 100-degree weather here in the good old northern Texas, and maybe we can start to get to some good air. I'm curious to see how the racing's going to turn out this weekend at the bracket finals up there at Ardmore, and ought to be fun. No, man, how about your weather? Is it breaking yet? You still got a lot of humidity out there.
No, man, it's finally cooling off, and I can tell you what, that good weather doesn't necessarily mean so much for race cars. It means a lot for the drivers as well, if you know what I mean, because I can tell you right now, whenever I was driving that Firebird, it was 105 degrees outside. It was probably 140 inside, and it was displeasing.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't have air conditioners inside those fun race cars that we own. So, sure, everybody feels the pain of that, getting a fire suit, sweat till you can't sweat anymore, and hopefully get out of it with a wind light as fast as possible. So. Man, Casey, a lot going on, man. We got a pretty packed show right now, as far as for going bracket racing and dropping a few nuggets out in the racing world today, man. Where you want to start? I guess that's the best question because there's just a lot going on, man.
Well, I think one of the first places we need to start is I saw over on our buddy TJ Pruitt's page over there, Drag Coverage. Surely everybody knows about that. If you know about GBR, you know about Drag Coverage. And by the way, TJ Pruitt's been on a show, and we're going to have to get him back one of these days whenever he's not so busy. But I saw not the BT you're thinking of, but the GABR, I want to say 60 grand deal was won by another BT, Braden Taylor. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, hats off for sure. Youngster getting the job done on the big stage. I want to say, don't quote me, I want to say he's 17 years old. And I know he ain't much older than that, let's put it that way. Never met him, but hey, man, congratulations on the win. I love that color purple that you got on that race car. Probably one of my favorite colors altogether. And who knows? Maybe Mo won't be red before too long. I might go with that purple right there. I think that looked pretty dope. Purple and silver. What do you think, Casey?
You can't beat it, man. The kid must have learned a few things from the old man, I guess. Who knew? There's nobody that uses nitrous more savvily. Is that a word?
I don't think so.
Brandon Taylor. So maybe Brandon Taylor taught his boy how to do that as well. But I'll tell you what, man. There's nobody that is hell on converters probably more than Brandon Taylor from what I hear. But where a lot of the, I guess, controversy kind of started out this week was the no split that ended up being a split at the Summer Fling over there in Columbus, Ohio. So I don't know what you heard about that, but I heard there was a whole lot of kind of back and forth about all that deal because the racer that typically was involved with it, we're not going to name people. I'm sure everybody knows who I'm talking about anyway. I mean, there's only 4 guys left in 4 cars, so it's got to be one of them, right? Anyway, this guy's a known no-splitter, and he's already won a 50 grand no-split deal earlier this year. So I guess before we kind of get into the whole deal, whenever you really talk about splits, I personally, I guess my personal opinion is I don't necessarily like whenever there's a no-split deal simply because, I don't have a whole lot of money, and it is what it is. Everybody's out there for the weekend, but that's irrelevant. I can respect the fact that the idea that everybody showed up and you showed up, you paid your entry fee. This is what the flyer says, and that's what we're racing for. So, I mean, realistically, as a racer, I'm just banking on, I guess you could say, somebody splitting if I get down into it, and then we'll disperse it. But if they don't want to, I mean, maybe I'll be annoyed or whatever, but I'm not necessarily going to be mad at them. I mean, it is what it is. We all signed up for the same thing, and you kind of, you got to sleep in the bed you made. So I guess, what are your personal thoughts on no splits?
You mean I'm about to be allowed to give my opinion and not get struck down for it? Yeah, that's what we're good for here at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, guys. And feel free to chime in on the chat. We'll bring your thoughts in as well here. But I'm 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 kind of in between there. I kind of play the middle. For me, it's like you said, I'm not a I won't call myself wealthy. All right, I'm not broke, but I'm not where I want to be. Put it that way. Okay, so many people can interpret that as many ways as they would like to, right? As far as for when it comes down to a split, I don't know if I would even be the one to have the conversation. I'd probably just send my wife up there or my 6-year-old. He's pretty good with math. Hey man, go up there and pick the largest number that comes out of somebody's mouth. All right, something I don't know, but would I take a split in $100,000 race? Well, yes. That's a lot of money coming my direction, guaranteed. After I said I'd split in the first place. Now that's not to take anything away from myself as a racer. Maybe I'm in a groove, and honestly, I don't even think I would weigh that in my decision to split. I'm pretty much gonna open up my cell phone, go to my banking app, and say that's more money than what I have right now. So I'm probably just gonna take it right then and there. But I also see the other side of it. I do. Let's get your thoughts on how you feel about splitting before I take the other side and get some guys out of the chat in here too.
Well, man, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Speaking of that, in the chat, we already have two people right here. Old Racer saying, back in the day, we used to race for trophies, so I don't care if they split. Bracket Racer 9662 says, all up top. I don't know if I want to do that, but I know a lot of people might. So, but the thing is, man, is a lot of people, I think what they don't understand is that whenever you go to the summer fling, or I think a lot of the flings are kind of structured the same way for the most part, with the exception of the Vegas million deal. But I don't think a lot of people understand how quickly your $100,000 to win race can turn into a 50 or a 40 or a 30 or even a 25. And the reason I say those exact numbers is because I worked out a bunch of math just because I wanted to know kind of an idea of what was going to get paid out. And just so you know, at 8 cars, you're still getting $1,500, and I know that's not a lot compared to 100,000. But at the same time, that's still a lot of money to a guy like me. That still pays for my weekend there and all that stuff. So, I mean, like I said, on one hand, I might be annoyed. On the other hand, whenever I write a check or somebody writes me a check and I don't have to write them a check, then I'm happy no matter what happens, because I race for fun. I don't race to make a living. I know some people do. Doesn't work out for me. But man, let's just say your normal split, right? Your typical split on a big race like this. I guess we might as well we'll just say the winner and runner up, because I don't want to run through the whole thing. If anybody wants this whole rundown, I'd be more than happy to email it to you. Just send us an email at goingbracketracing@gmail.com, or send us follow that Facebook page and just send us a message on there, and I'll send you this whole thing that I did for math. But your average split is pretty much all cut out of the top number, right? So basically what's happening is they're just cutting that in half and dispersing it through the rest of the field. So if you take that 100 down to 50, then you could do like 50 and then 25 to the other finalists. And your semi then could get 8750, then 3500, 2000, 1000. This is just a scenario I came up with. Now, the point is still, whenever you go into this race, what you have to remember is, if you want to disperse that back even further, you're still paying your $450 entry fee. You're still potentially paying a $350 buyback. So you're still in at $800. Your entry fee is not going to lower just because the overall payout on top is lowering. And in my opinion, the best distribution for this same amount of money is 25, 15, 75, 5, 25, 1500. Basically, you're just dividing it in two the whole way down. But the problem is, are you still going to be willing to risk potentially $800 to run for 25,000?
Oh, yes. $800 to run for 25,000. Yeah, that's a risk. I'll take it, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have showed up in the first place, in my
Right.
opinion, right? So I see the math and I see why it winds up the way that it does. I know a lot of people are thinking like I think. I'd rather 100% of zero ain't really gonna work out. You know what I mean? So as long as I'm walking away with $1,500 in my wallet for a weekend worth of racing, I'm a happy camper. I'm sure most of you are. I see Kevin Little in the chat. He always splits. I see Cody Newman in the chat. I always split, but again, I never get past the third round. Sounds like a lot of people that I know, including myself, Cody. So if I get past the third, well, don't worry, the fifth will get me. That's just the way it is for me. Okay, so um, I like the ability to walk into the race, and as I hit my hydraulic on my chair and almost fall down, I like my idea of walking into the race knowing that, okay, I've already won this, and if I win this round, I'm gonna win that, which is comfortable to me. So
Right.
how the math breaks out, I'm okay with that. Keep going though, Casey.
Anytime, in my opinion, anytime that if I can just cover what it costs me for the weekend to go there, then I'm happy anyway. Like I really don't care because in my opinion, if I didn't have to, like, no matter what, any other hobby you have, I don't care what it is, it's going to cost you money. Realistically, other than playing cards, racing is one of the few things where you have the opportunity to get your money back or even make some money, depending on how good of a year you have. And at the end of the day, as long as I can just cover what it costs me to go racing for that weekend, then I feel like I automatically made money. Basically, if the track's cutting me any sort of check, I don't care if it's $50, that's $50 less that I had to spend that weekend to do something I wanted to do anyway.
I'll go this far to say to you, Casey, if I didn't have to open up my wallet to pay for the buyback, I felt like I made money.
That's
Okay,
true.
so that is my rule of thumb here, if that's the case. Now let's switch gears just a little bit. I mean, I know we got the math here, but let's throw a little wrinkle in it. Do you have a amount of money that you won't take a split at? Everybody knows we have our weekend days. I'm a weekend warrior myself. I get the chance every now and then to race the bigger races that CP puts on, or Paige Hamlin, or TB, or all these other big name promoters, SFG. I get a chance every now and then to run those, but man, that's probably like once or twice a year if I'm lucky. Okay, so any other time I'm running for 1, 2, maybe 5,000. What's the number that you are not going to split at? Do you have one, or should there be one to think about? What do you think?
I don't know, man. I mean, for me personally, I don't have one. There's a lot of people out there that I guess kind of do because I've talked to a guy that's a pretty successful racer out here by me, and he's an extremely nice guy. But at the end of the day, he drives for someone else, and he says, "Hey, man, I got to split whatever I split with my owner." You know, so if he's up here and say there's only like, I don't know, say there's like only $800 to win or whatever, and they want to split, say, I don't know, like, well, let's just say 800. He has to give 400 of that if he wins to his car owner already. So at a certain point, his car owner is going to be like, "Hey, man, what are you doing? You're one of the best racers out here. Why are you splitting with this guy? I'm footing the bills. You bring me back money that isn't even covering what the tab was for the weekend, and you won the whole deal."
Right. Right. So there, in my opinion, that's why there has to be a number. Like I don't know very many people that I race with on the weekends that are just running for 1,200, 2,000 points race, whatever. I don't know very many people that are hired guns coming to that race as a hired gun. Like, so I never really weighed that particular part out. I do know that most hired guns, they pay 30% back to the, or they're only going to make 30%. You know what I mean? The owner generally is going to make the larger percentage. I could be wrong about that. Correct me in the chat, guys. I know I got a few hired guns in here somewhere, but generally 70-30 is the split. Well, you get into a situation where 30% of 1,000 is not going to cut it for me. You know what I mean? So,
Well, if you had to pay your own plane ticket to get wherever you're going, it's going to cost more than that, and you got to, it's like you said, man, those races consist of a lot of hired guns, if not half the field being hired guns, because of the amount of money you got to pony up to do it.
And we would be switching it back to big money bracket racing at this point, and kind of leaving the subject of local racing behind for a second. When you talk about big money racing, generally speaking, there's somebody who's driven the rig there. You jumped on a plane. Maybe you had to drive the rig, and you've gotten there, but you didn't pay a single dime to do it. You're just there. You're cutting back a piece of that money to the person, to whoever's car that is, if you win it. Okay. In those situations where we're talking a couple $100,000 to win, I mean, I'm not wrong. We race for that kind of money in bracket racing. Okay. So if you catch someone in the finals of SFG's 500 and you're paying out 30% to the car owner, I'm pretty sure your thought process to split at 4 cars changes. It's easy to split $100,000 for someone like me. If I gotta give 100, if 100 is my portion of the split and I'm a hired gun and I only get to make 30, thank you very much is all I got to say. Okay, you can have your money, because it wouldn't be possible for me even to be in this position if you didn't foot the bill in the first place. So that's what I think, right? That's how I go. So in those situations and the big money, what we would consider, most of you following have a consideration on what is big money bracket racing in the first place. We can define that too if you want to. I mean, it's going to be an opinion, but I would say anything over 20 is big money. Some people would say anything over 10. Yep. I kind of fall along that lines too, but most of us are going to say anything over 20. And I'm sorry, I'm good with splitting that if you want to foot the bill. Hey, George, I have a good resume. I'm for hire. Holler at me. You know what I mean? But
and a lot of people too, they always, a lot of people always think, oh, you can't compete with the people who are hired guns and all this type of stuff. Well, yeah, monetarily you probably can't, because they're not out anything. And it's kind of like I said in a lot of our past shows, if I personally, back in the day when I wasn't footing the bill, if I'm double entered or however many times I am entered, depending on the type of race, I'm likely to set up to be 5 on the tree until I lose one. And, the average man, nowadays you have to kind of at these big races because everybody's willing to do it. But back in the day, 20 years ago, I'd set up 5 on the tree. Everybody else is set up 10 to 12 on the tree. And if I'm green, then I usually have somebody by a number off the starting line. I just have to barely back into them. Oh. And, go ahead.
It's a perfect comment that you just made there. I know that I was watching Summer Fling, and first round of one of the days there, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but we got to watch Nick Hastings versus Troy Williams. And we also had the luxury of Mr. Pete Biondo, great guys, by the way. If you guys, if you've never raced Summer Fling, I haven't either, but it is on my bucket list, right? If there's one race, there's a few races that I'd like to be able to attend. Any Fling event, the OG, and the SFG 500 again. Like, I've done it once, but I have to do it again, right? Anyway, he interviewed both Nick and Troy. Troy's answer to Pete asking him, what do you set up? Troy Williams was set up 002 and holding 300. And then he went to Nick Hastings and said, Nick, well, what do you set up? Well, I'm set up, I think he said 8 takes 6 is what I'm hoping for. So, I mean, guys, I'm just throwing it out there. You kind of gonna have to set up 00 eventually if you want low 002, not 009 like 002, 003, 4, 5. That's what these guys are doing here. So, something to think about, right? Something to think about.
No, definitely, man. It's not easy. That's for sure. That's why those guys, everybody always says, why do you always see the same racers in the winner's circle? It's because they're the best racers. I mean, that's the reason, and keep all this kind of stuff in mind if you're headed to the SFG 100 at Darlington, as far as all that goes, because you're going to see the same racers there, and then you're going to see them the same racers again. I guess that's 1, 2, 3 weeks right there. You're going to see them all back in Bristol, man.
Yep.
The fall fling, and then you're right. Then the OG is after that. So I mean, there's a lot going on. Coverage starts this Thursday for the SFG 100, by the way,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
down there in Darlington.
Definitely. So we got something to watch as well, you know.
Yeah.
The weather looks great. I did see SFG's post, and the gate entries are also welcome if you didn't know that, guys. So I'm sure you did. Kyle Riley does a great job with SFG. He's been giving us races for several years now. So let's make sure we continue to support those promoters that continue to support us, for lack of better terms. So no,
And
Casey.
speaking of Darlington, George, this is one of the big deals that we've been having going on the Going Back Bracket Racing Facebook page. At least for the last couple days, and I did actually plot all these tracks out. But Darlington is one of these tracks that is going to WDRA now, and I think they're going to be a lot bigger deal in 2023 than we initially thought whenever they announced it. Because I-30, which is a track you frequently go to, they're going to be WDRA. Piedmont and Farmington, which are two of the longest running tracks in the entire country, as far as I know, out by me, they're going WDRA, and I was incredibly surprised about that. I was actually talking to Naquez last night about them jumping ship, so to speak, after being with IHRA for so long. So what are your thoughts on that, man? They have 30 tracks now listed on our Facebook page if you want to go see them.
Honestly, I think the list is probably bigger than 30 at this point. I think that list is up to date to some extent, and I think there's more names going on it as we sit here and discuss it. Definitely is going to be this is going to be a great winter. Let's put it that way. It's going to be fun to watch and see what all unfolds throughout this winter. Make sure to join us with Going Bracket Racing Winter Series. We'll have many guests throughout the winter, trust me. And I don't want to spread any rumors, and I don't want to spill any thoughts for myself, to be honest, because I want to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. What is the plan? And so there's a lot of missing pieces. As I lower my seat again, I better stop kicking that thing. But what are the missing pieces? So I challenge you guys, if you guys got questions for the WDRA or the IHRA for that matter, shoot them to our inbox, because eventually we're going to get a chance to ask those questions. Would love to have your input to be able to share with them and get answers to questions that everybody has on their mind. But I am going to say right now, I am 100% on board for whatever is going to be the best for what I do. Is that selfish of me? Sure. Do I care that that is selfish of me? No. I have a race car in my garage that I have put my own funds up for. I want to be able to enjoy that. My family is beginning to enjoy the sport as well. I'm going to go with, as far as for who I would say I am behind, whoever is behind the words Going Bracket Racing, because that's what I do, right? So I know there's a lot of people out here that feel the same. What about us little guys? How do we make it to where we can stop battling between tracks that are an hour away from us in any direction that we want to look for good bracket racing weekends? How do we how can we make that an easier task? Well, it seems to me like right now there's some words being spread around, and I'm not spreading rumors, right? But I'm reading and I'm listening, and it seems like somebody's mind frame is conducive to mine. It's the same. It's at least lines up a little bit to my thought of bracket racing. Go ahead, Casey.
Right. No, I was going to say that basically the only information we have as far as WDRA goes is the same information that everybody else has right now. It's literally all the exact same information as far as I know. The only person that has truly talked to this guy, where it's public information, is Monday Morning Racer, who's also been on this show a couple times. But he did an interview with him the other day. I don't know that 100% of WDRA's stuff is set up quite yet, but they claim that their plan is to be the premier league for bracket racers. Now, as far as what I gathered from that, I don't really know how that's going to happen yet. I didn't really hear any theories about. There were a lot of people on our stuff. WDRA, if you're watching, go look at the feed as far as the comments on all of our stuff, because there's a lot of information in there of people asking questions you need to answer, which is.
I'm actually
go ahead.
I'm gonna correct one word. Alliance is the word that I'm going to throw in there. And that word means working together. You guys have mutual interest. That's all I had. I'm sorry I interrupted you to throw that out there, but I love that word. Go ahead.
No, definitely. But what I was going to say is the main question I think that I've seen through our feeds is first of all, what are they going to do for us? And second of all, is there going to be bracket finals? How's this going to affect bracket finals? Because all 30 of these, I think of 30, the 29 of them are currently IHRA sanctioned. It seemed to me what I gathered from the interview that Monday Morning Racer did was they are primarily going to help with purchasing of track related items such as, glue, tires, rotators, things like that, and scheduling for tracks that are nearby, which we have said a million times on here needed to happen anyway, because it's like you said when we were on the phone the other night. What do you do, sanctioning body? Like, you're not helping the tracks. How are you going to help the tracks? How has nobody figured out yet? Like, NHRA has 120 tracks. IHRA has 80, which looks like 50 now. WDRA now has 30 of them. How come you can sanction all these tracks and you can't find a way for them to have a Google Calendar or something that shows when somebody in their general division has a race scheduled?
It's an excellent thought process. I know I remember hearing through Monday Morning Racer's interview. By the way, if you've missed that, head over to Monday Morning Racer, give him a like, a share. He's brought some pretty good information with that interview. And I know that there's a WDRA webpage based on listening to that interview. And that one of the main goals of Don, and hopefully I can we're on first name basis. I know we haven't quite met yet, but Don has set up for WDRA is the immediate ability to contact each track. Well, where do you find said number? I don't know. I got to Google it. And hopefully the number that comes up on Google is the correct number that doesn't give me that, I'm sorry, this telephone number is disconnected. I don't want to hear that message whenever I have something that I want to ask, okay? So definitely the key points here. Sanctioning isn't happening with anybody in the first place, in my opinion. Here, you guys can be members of our track and you can do whatever the heck you want to. Doesn't sound like sanctioning to me. I'm sorry. I can go to Google and pull the term up and try to define it again, but still doesn't seem like sanctioning. That's why I like the word alliance. Well, I like that word. I like that word a lot because there's multiple people working for the same goal in an alliance. That's almost like team, for crying out loud, right? So I do like the idea of, hey, you can't find glue? Well, I can find that. But you got somebody you're already getting it from and it's working out? Cool. Tell them if they want to work with us, they can work with us. That's an alliance, okay? So I like that word. You were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Well, and building off of what you were just saying, it's kind of like we were talking the other day again. And just spitballing a type of deal here. If you, in theory, now this is not a 100% deal, but just theoretically, if you have two tracks and say they're like 30, 45 minutes away from each other, those same tracks, if you don't run on top of each other, in theory, you're going to get the same people to each track, which in theory will double your amount of people there. Now, let's just say it doesn't. Let's say you get 85% as far as participants. Well, the thing is that even with 85%, you're still going to make more money because now you didn't have to pay your track staff to work every single day that month. You only had to pay them to work 2 weeks. You have 85%, you have that extra, whatever that is. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to try to throw numbers out and then get ridiculed later because of my math skills. But anyway, the point is that if you only operate half as much throughout the month, but you have that much more participation and you don't have to employ a staff that much more, both tracks will actually make more money by being open half as much. And then no one will be hurt. Everybody will be good. All the tracks will stay open. Everybody's happy because there's still these tracks in this general area. The goal is to keep the tracks open. And I just don't understand why you go to Costco. Why is everything cheaper at Costco? Because you buy it in bulk.
Yeah, right. Buy it in bulk.
Why aren't these tracks all in the same general vicinity getting together and getting a deal and being like, hey, I use 10 barrels of glue a year. Hey, I use 6. Okay, I use, however many. And before you know it, you have 30 barrels. You buy 30 all at once. And now you disperse it as you will, but everybody's got a lower price because you bought it in bulk. Because now you can throw your weight around, because you can go to 2 suppliers and say, I'm going to buy 30 from VHT.
What do you
I'm
want to
buy
do?
30 from PJ1.
Yep.
You
What do you
know?
want to do? You want to beat the price. You have the bargaining chips in your hand when you come in an alliance format. No matter what, it doesn't matter to me. Nobody can dispute that. Nobody's going to turn away 4 willing buyers to get 0 of them because they went to the competitor. Okay. That's just simple business. That's all that is. That's just business. All right. So I got a few comments in here. I got Kevin Griner. Talked to him last night on the phone for a little bit. He says, who ends up with the big sponsor money is who's going to survive. That is 100% fact, which is it's a subject I'm just not going to poke at yet. I know enough about it right now based on my anonymous source. You know, I got a couple of private investigators on retainer right now that I got out doing some work for me and the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. But I'm not going to mention it quite yet. I want us to have information from the horse's mouth first, okay? But there is a big cloud that is brewing a storm, and it does surround contingency and sponsorship. Somebody's going to grab it and somebody ain't. That's a fact of the matter, all right? That's all I'm saying, though, Casey. If you want to elaborate, it wasn't me. That's all I got.
Man, the overall goal I have for anything is kind of the same thing that we've always said here on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, which is anything that helps lower the operating cost of tracks is ultimately going to help the racers. Like, everybody's like, oh, what about us? What about this? What about that? Well, first of all, number one, to even worry about us, we have to have the tracks open. And we've had so many tracks closing lately that everybody's been saying, man, I've been going here for 20 years. I've been going here for 30 years. You know, all these places that are closing, we need to just kind of let things fall where they may and kind of see how are we going to keep all the tracks open so we can be racers to begin with. Because ultimately the only thing to do without a racetrack is go street racing, which isn't safe for anybody.
It's true. It's true. I'm reading Monday Morning Racer's comment right now. He says frenemy mentality out there, sadly. It makes a lot of sense, and that's why I like the word. And I'm going to keep saying it. Sorry if I sound like a broken record. If I could be DJ Mix-a-Lot and just keep mixing that word into the conversation. Alliance? You can't be frenemies in an alliance, in my opinion. You have to work together. There's so much that comes from working with one common goal, and that's to keep our sport alive. There's so much more that comes behind that. Pause with me, though, and don't go anywhere. Make sure you hit that share button and the like button and subscribe button, and keep the questions coming in the chat, and we're going to give a word to our sponsors. Hang in there.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for everybody hanging in there while we give some words out to our sponsors. TSR, we can't do it without you. BRG 3D Printed Motorsports. I tell you what, I am very much so spoiled by your product. When it comes to having to get in my car and in a rush because I had to set the tires by myself. I've got 2 kids at the racetrack, and maybe I didn't know who I was racing, and I stepped away from my car to try to count to see who I was racing to help me decide what I was going to dial, whatever it might be. When I jump into my car and pull those magnets down, man, It makes it that much easier for me to put my harness on and I'm good to go. It's quick, boom, boom, boom. I'm in there. So thank you to both of you for what you do. Our fans and ourselves are very thankful for what you do for our sport as well. Casey, man, let's get back onto that conversation about frenemies because it's relevant. It's relevant. It's relevant everywhere. I don't know how many tracks you have in your area, but I got 4. Wait, 1, 2, 4 in my area within an hour where all I got to do is just like, it's going to rain over there and it feels good over there and I can pick what track I'm going to from that. That's a problem because each track are open to do what I want to do, right? Does that not steal the ability for each one of the tracks to make money to keep the doors open? Let's talk about this whole thought of frenemies, Casey. What do you think, man? How about this scenario? WDRA's here. It's here. Obviously, it's here. It's not fake. It's not a fad. We've got enough information here to say, well, they're public. I mean, people know about them on Facebook, which is our way of being public here lately. What happens? WDRA comes in. What happens with the IHRA tracks? Let's talk about it. Do we make frenemies or are we going to work together?
Man, the smartest thing, in my opinion, that both of them can do is say, I'll take these classes, you take those classes, and let's not step on each other's toes. And the reason I say that is because exactly what we were getting ready to get into. What's gonna happen with IHRA? Because it's seemingly WDRA and IHRA going to be an even split, it looks like. However, what these guys are looking to do, and Monday Morning Racer needs to help me out with some names here, but what they plan on doing versus what Larry Jeffers is doing seemingly are not necessarily the same thing. Larry Jeffers specifically said he wants to bring back Top Sportsman and Top Dragster, and he would like to bring back sportsman racing. Now, sportsman racing, I would perceive as rod classes, your super street, super gas, stuff like that, as far as the NHRA guys are concerned. Those guys typically, if they have the opportunity, are going to race those classes versus racing a bracket race. So you might not be dividing people as much as you necessarily think. I mean, go ahead.
I mean, I like it. I do. Let's be honest. Even whenever they mentioned IHRA was sold and Larry Jeffers was buying it, my main question was, well, what does that mean for the bracket racers? Okay, what does that mean for what I do? Nobody's got an answer yet. Now I do slowly, I'm beginning to hear an answer come out of WDRA, and I like what I hear so far. And I think, as I read through for instance, as I read through our post that we made about what we look for in sanctioning bodies, I remember seeing several comments along the lines of, how is the WDRA already grabbing tracks? What is their pitch? Is not the preservation of bracket racing pitch enough for some tracks? Because let's be honest, Prescott Dragway, I don't know if they're quite there yet. It's a smaller track. There's small tracks everywhere. Does IHRA even want a piece of those tracks? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's hard to say, man, because if they're planning on doing Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, I would have to imagine, being Larry Jeffers, being his primary thing is pro mods, I have to imagine they're looking at fast bracket racing, if anything, and then they got to be looking at some pro mod stuff, maybe some no prep king stuff. I know Larry Jeffers built Kai Kelly's car. He's built a couple other MPK cars. I mean, so you would think that's going to be his route. Realistically, Larry Jeffers might not need 80 tracks. He might not want 80 tracks. Maybe he wants IHRA to be more of like what we were about to get into on the show last week, but it was towards the end of the show and we didn't want to make it a 5-hour long show.
Yep.
But 8th Mile Pro Mods are arguably some of the most exciting racing runs that you're going to watch, including fuel classes. And the reason being is because if you're running 8th Mile Pro Mods, typically that track can only run 8th Mile Pro Mods. It's not like you're running a quarter-mile track. It's if you run a pro mod at Worldwide Technology or Indy or somewhere like that, you run a pro mod 8th Mile and it goes, say, 380 something. That's not going to look that fast, but you run 380 something at Piedmont where the track's skinny and you have the stands down the sides and it's not like a brand new, like asphalt parking lot as far as you can see, you could run 420 there and it's going to look like you blaze down through there. And all those people are going to think that's exciting and everything. Now you brought your fans.
You've hit it on the head there. And another track that you've used Piedmont. I'll use I-30. And the reason why I'm going I-30 is because the stands are literally, Casey, man, I'm telling you, if I wanted to jump off the stands, I would be standing in the right lane if I jump from the left. That's how close they are. In my opinion, I could literally jump from one. Well, maybe not with my hurt Achilles. Like I used to be able to do it, like back in the day. I'll probably wind up in the hospital again if I tried it now, right? But I love how close that track is. I do. I love the feeling that I get when there's 50 people standing in the stands and it feels like there's 200 because it's that close, right? So, is the IHRA going to grab that style of a track and make it what it could be? That's what I want to know. And I see a comment in here from Quest Duckus talking about the almighty dollar sign. I feel like there's a lot of almighty dollar sign going on right now. I do. And I feel like, well, one quote unquote, I'm just going to say alliance and not sanctioning body, is making their stance known. I know it's brand new, so it's pretty much the only thing you can do. Everybody has questions. Well, you better answer it. It's called professional courtesy, for lack of better terms. Right. Make yourself known.
Well, think about this, man. Realistically, there's a lot more to go around than people think, because there's, like, just think about it this way, just your basic sportsman drag racing series. You have top dragster, you have top sportsman, you have all the rod classes, which I can't ever remember because I didn't grow up in the IHRA area. But anyway, the point is you got super street, super gas, super comp. That's already 5. Then you got bracket racing. Among 6 classes, why do you all have to step on each other's toes? Because typically those people, like I said, yeah, I guess you could say, okay, super comp racers, they'll bracket race every once in a while. Same thing with all the other 90 classes. And I guess depending on where you're at, you could run your top dragster, top sportsman cars there too. But I can tell you there's tracks out here like Galat. Yeah, you can run your top sportsman cars there. That track was built for pro mods, but there's a lot of places that you are very restricted if you have one of those 420 dragsters or a 450 door car or something like that, because you can't stop, or the surface is not smooth enough where you feel safe going down it. You don't want to wreck 10 times without wrecking in the same pass like a pro mod, you know?
I'm looking at a comment from Russell Dow here, and it's saying Larry has already stated no pro mods on Saturday. Now, I don't know how true that is yet, right? But it's in my chat here. I didn't read it for myself, and I'm reading what it's in here. I want to find the answers to those types of questions. What is it that's going to happen? Who are you targeting? Remember, guys, we want to get across what you want to hear. Go on Bracket Racing's message. It's wide open. Send a question that you might have. We'll do the best that we can to combine those questions and get the answers to your questions is what we're after. Don't forget to message us on that Facebook page. We'll get it. We'll write it all down because we'll probably have both of them on our show before it's all over.
You just jogged my memory on something that I was actually thinking about last night too, right before I went to sleep, which was the one thing that popped into my head was, you know, NHRA hasn't been treating the pro mod racers very good this year. They can't find sponsors for the series. I want to say Fuel Tech finally stepped up for them, but there for a while they had nothing. In fact, I want to say they might have been racing for nothing there for at the beginning of the year, maybe at Gainesville or something. Maybe Larry Jeffers, being so deep in the pro mods, maybe he's just said, I'm just going to take IHRA because it's for sale, and I'm going to say IHRA is a pro mod series, and that's it.
Well, and we talked about this, man. We really need to understand, and hopefully I'm not telling anything that anybody that's breaking news. PDRA, that is not a sanctioning body, in my opinion. That is a promotion of fast cars. That's the best way that I can put it. ADRL, that wasn't a sanctioning body, in my opinion. Okay, so I think there needs to be a discussion out here about what constitutes a sanctioning body. In my opinion, I don't even know if I can call the NHRA a sanctioning body besides the fact that they take a membership. What else are they controlling? What else are they working through? And correct me, guys, this is just me, and it could be the ignorance that I have. I just don't know, right? It could be, very much. But what else are they controlling? If that's all that they're doing is saying, hey, NHRA, you pay us a membership, you get the NHRA finals at the end, what is being sanctioned?
Being sanctioned, in my opinion, is first of all following one rule book, which a lot of those things have. But in my opinion, a true sanctioning body does exactly what we were talking about earlier. It says, hey, we all need glue. Let's get a bulk shipment coming across on one of those big ships if that's where they come from. You know, like let's do something like that and disperse it amongst all our tracks, and we'll figure out how to ship it to everybody later. But I mean, you're talking, let's say, I mean, I have no idea what a barrel of glue costs, but let's just say it's like $100 for a barrel, which I know isn't right, but let's just say. If you can buy this across the 120 tracks NHRA has as a bulk order, can you imagine how much cheaper you could get that for an entire year's supply? I mean, you'd easily be able to get it for 80 a barrel or something. That's significant savings, which then that's significant savings straight into the track operator's pocket, which then allows for the racers to have a track to go to, have a constant supply of the same quality of product, and just be able to know the track's going to be able to know where they're going to be at for the rest of the year. They can plan in advance.
I'm going to be honest with you, too, and I got to take this because Russell Dowds in here said he talked to Larry personally at Eddyville Saturday. And I got a lot of guys thinking, man, IHRA could really grab those pro mods, which, in my opinion, if I were to think about business, Larry Jeffers, as you already mentioned, built Kai Kelly's car. Well, that means he's probably working on Lizzie's car because I think she had a little fender bender. Glad she's okay. So he's working on her car. And while at the same time saying IHRA will not host pro mod events. For someone who builds pro mods, that is an interesting take and could only mean, if this is all true, that he has a soft spot for grassroots bracket racing sportsman racers, and that's what the IHRA is going to be. That's the only thing it can mean, because if he's not going to pro mod, where is he going? He works. He already has one business that says, I have a huge stronghold on pro mods. I build them. I have the ability to host pro mod races. On the other hand, but I'm not going to combine the two. That's like saying you have a breadbasket of the smartest, I don't know, the smartest stock agents that buy and sell stocks, but you don't use them. That's what that's saying. You have the ability to have insider information in one business, and you have another business, and you don't use it.
Dude, as big as No Prep Racing is, it could have a series, and it would be a very cheap series to run because you don't have to prep. I guess you probably need a couple extra wreckers, more than likely, but as far as everything else goes, you wouldn't need a whole bunch of tracks. You wouldn't need a great surface. Maybe that's the route he's going. I mean, we haven't heard from him yet.
I like where this is going, and honestly, I don't want to spread rumors. Larry Jeffers, we can't wait to have you on the show, just for the record. He has 10 No Prep Kings cars in his shop right now.
Exactly. And that's the reason I think also everybody's kind of giving him a hard time saying, why haven't we heard from Larry? Why haven't we heard from Larry? It's like, hey, man, Larry's got a lot going on, man.
True.
And those No Prep Kings cars, they have to be done yesterday because
the series is starting.
Well, they crash them, and then they have to be at the next race in not very long, and a TV show isn't going to wait for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to get to that, too. I know we're coming up on time, but, hey, listen. Could the reason why Larry Jeffers isn't going to take Pro Mod, are you listening? He's not going to take Pro Mod because it won't be called Pro Mod anymore. It'll be called No Prep Kings. Are all Pro Mod racers wanting to go no prepping? Let's be honest. What are they getting out of Pro Mod racing in the NHRA ranks right now? I saw a photo of one of the most, I can't remember his name, but he was at U.S. Nationals. He was parked, it looked like on the other side of the circle track, like behind the circle track. How is he ever going to be out front of his fans that far in the back?
Exactly. And the thing is an NHRA legal pro mod is going to cost significantly more than a no prep Kings car. But then you see someone like, by the way, one of our guys, Disco Dean, one of the most popular guys out there. And he doesn't have that big budget. He said on one of his Instagram videos or something that what he does is he actually buys parts that pro mod racers are throwing out because they run them harder than what he runs them. So that's how he runs his show.
Are they running them harder, or are they being quote unquote sanctioned? By the way, I don't think restrictions, I don't think that's what sanction means. I believe restrictions mean restrictions and sanction means sanction, right? So all the rules, you can have all the rules you want to. I still don't call that sanctioning. But every single year, pro mods are being stricken by some type of weight loss. Oh, you can only use this additive. Oh, you can't use that kind of screw blower. You got to use that one. Oh, the turbo cars. Oh, the pro, all of that. There's always something new being thrown at pro mod racers. I actually like where this stream has gone because I've learned something through our chat. Seems to me like, and I ain't spreading no rumors, I'm just going to wait to hear it from the man himself, MPK could be a very good target for IHRA. Very good target.
It could be, man. And the reason they changed the rules, in my opinion, for pro mods so much is realistically to keep the nitrous cars alive, because they can't, without all those restrictions on the boosted cars, a nitrous car simply cannot keep up. It's not possible.
Casey, man, I saw on the internet a motorcycle ran 497 in the quarter mile.
That might have been one of those hydrogen peroxide deals or something. That was a jet bike deal.
Oh yeah, it was jet. But 497 on two wheels in the quarter?
Yeah, he's crazy. I actually thought that was going to be Larry McBride on a Nitro Harley, but I was incorrect.
All I know is I think I was reading through Kiss Carico, and he made a comment. He said, man, I think he would have ran a little faster if he wasn't carrying those two steel balls.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I think it would take. Yeah, Monday Morning Racer's got a question here, and it's probably going to be the last one I can get to, but here's the question I have. Why hasn't AHRA grown, should I say? Why has AHRA grown, and how will it now function in the Jeffords portfolio?
Huh?
No, why hasn't AHRA grown? That's what he's saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know enough about AHRA. Do you?
AHRA was originally, I think, one of the biggest series out there. That's a Brett Kepner question, and I actually thought about that this morning. I was like, man, I almost texted Brett and was going to be like, hey, man, I know that it's like only 10 hours away, but will you be on the show tonight and talk to us about this stuff? But I wanted to let him get a little bit more information on what's going on as far as what's all out there, and then kind of give us the rundown of, what all is, what was it like back in the day? Because back in the day, they did have three major organizations and everybody did fine, it seemed like. Maybe that's just a perception that I have because I wasn't there. But Brett would know.
Yeah, and I'm not against three organizations in the first place. I think there should be some alliance between all three so that everybody can function optimally. I do, because let's be honest, there does have to be a buffer zone in between it. I feel the same way, honestly, politically as a whole. Doesn't matter to me. You'll never know what side of the fence I sit on because I'm never going to tell you, right? But a third party wouldn't hurt nobody. It's an odd number, too. I like odd numbers. It's almost like checks and balances, for crying out loud. But anyway, man, this has been a heck of a comment here. Hold on. I asked about MPK. He said they were pro mods, not what he is promoting. Man, listen. Russell Dow, I'm glad you're here, by the way. It's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. I would tell everybody, once we get the date for Larry Jeffers to be live on Going Bracket Racing, please share it across everything you got. We're going to make that show huge. I almost guarantee it. There are a lot of people who are wanting to know which way the IHRA is going. I just so happen to be one of them. I don't have to guess about the WDRA right now because it's stated. Monday Morning Racer did a great job asking questions, and it's stated. I understand at least enough of what their focus is. We got to find out what the IHRA focus is at this point. It is going to be a heck of a next couple of months. That's all I got. Casey, Before we get out of here, man, if you got any more topics, run with it. I don't mind being a couple minutes over.
Well, I'll tell you that you guys aren't going to want to miss next week's show because we're having the second winningest racer of all time, but the winningest, in my opinion, sportsman racer, because I don't really count Alcohol Funny Car because obviously Manzo's the king. 105 NHRA national event victories. Dan Fletcher will be on the show next week. And if you got any questions, send them to me. What do you want to hear from Dan? And don't miss it, man.
Don't miss it. Guys, it's getting exciting over here in the bracket racing world. We're actually doing exactly what we need to be doing as a whole in the racing community. All the information's coming out on our newly formed media source, Facebook. Everything is dropping there. Everybody's in the know, seems like. Seems like everybody wants to be a little bit further in the know. We're going to make that happen around here. So, guys, as I always say, we will see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good one.